everyone at the highest levels, for the most part, is on something. You know, like our team is pretty much like the only people who really, I think, don't use steroids to a certain degree.
What's up guys, Derek, moreplates.com. Today we're going to be talking about Gordon Ryan. This is a highly requested topic. I've been asked for the past year. People have been hitting me up asking me to cover this guy, and more recently he put up an Instagram story talking about PEDs in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I thought it was worth circling back to, and I'll put up the Instagram story near the end, but kind of to pull, you kind of make this come like full circle, I guess, at the end of it. But just for now, going from start to finish, he is an American grappler and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. This is based on his bio, who primarily competes in no-gi submission wrestling matches. He is a 3-time ADCC world champion, IBJJF no-gi world champion, and 4-time Eddie Bravo Invitational champion. So this guy has some of the most impressive, he has like the nuttiest washboard abs ever. Like, this guy is very genetically gifted in that regard and could easily, be a, like top fitness icon probably if he really wanted to, just based on that alone. But he also has some of the most impressive before and afters, like especially in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world. Some of his before and afters are absolutely absurd. And of course, some of the after images are like heavily sharpened and heavily, contrasted and whatnot. So obviously there's going to be, it's not like his physique wasn't impressive to start. A lot of people don't give this guy enough credit for his genetics because they look at the before images and they don't realize how much of this is just lighting and pump. Like, this guy is, sweating in the gym, just worked out with weights notably, and he's looking absolutely sliced. And then here he is, actually like pretty fucking sliced too, but in much worse lighting and not, having worked out with weights, and he's just chilling there. And it's a less flattering angle or lighting circumstance, even though you can still see the guy's peeled. Like, the guy has nuts, ab insertions, and is lean, very lean, I guess, when he wants to be. Like, sometimes he gets a bit fluffy, but most of the time he's looking pretty solid. So anyways, nowadays, a lot of people would argue like this is very achievable naturally, and it's like, yeah, I can kind of get on board with what you're saying, but people also see his core, like, which is his genetic gift essentially, and then sort of these trend looking delts, and they start to get a bit suspect, as well as the fact that he is competing in a sport that is essentially known for its prevalence of hormone use. So it would be kind of stupid for somebody in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to not be deploying whatever they can to maximize force production during a match if they are not being tested, or endurance, or whatever. So here is a kind of like this is a really good compilation done by flowgrappling.com in 2017, where they basically went from his physique from square one sort of to, most recent, and his physique really hasn't changed in the past few years, but this is them covering it for 2 years, from 2015 to 2017, I guess. And here he is again, the genetic gift of these ab insertions. Like, these are fucking, this is like an 8-pack, dude. Like, this is the pinnacle of fucking ab insertions. I would be, anyone would be stoked to have this kind of, frame, I guess. So here he is, and he's transitioning. Like, look how fucking peeled he is even back then. So a lot of people don't realize that it's not like, even if he is sauced, it's not like he had nothing to work with and it was all juice. Like, there's a reason why a lot of guys in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu look fucking cranked, and then there's a lot of guys who look like shit but are still on juice. At the end of the day, a lot of this comes down to hard work, diet, training, genetics, but a lot of genetics, not just the fucking gear too. Like, gear is involved probably, but anyways. So getting through here, he 195 in this shot, still has visible abs. Like, does he ever not have a visible six-pack? The guy's body fat distribution is like the most favorable I've fucking seen since, Matt Does Fitness even. That, the guy who just like holds fat everywhere, you just can't see it supposedly, and that's why he looks like he's on steroids, but he's actually not on steroids. Yeah, that fucking guy. So anyways, here he is, and here's his progress over the years. Like, this was a really well done compilation that basically went, found every fucking shot of him. Here he is when he started bulking up, I guess, here. Still has visible abs, even though looks like he's up fucking 30, 40, 50 pounds even maybe. Like, who actually knows? Like, from the start, how much he weighs back here, I wouldn't be surprised if this bulked up shot is like plus 40 pounds or some shit. Like, look at this. This is him at full bulk mode. And then he starts to slim down a bit. And now all of a sudden he has the, the trend looking delts almost. He's starting to pack on, has a more, I don't know, just looks fucking more adult at this point. And he also has a more muscle weight, distributed across his frame pretty much everywhere. Just good, and a fucking nuts physique overall. And here he is when he's fully shredded down again. You can see he's packed on what appears to be like 20 plus pounds of like actual just clean muscle tissue since the start of this transformation over the past couple of years. Man, like, fuck, this is like this is like what Ryan Gosling like wishes he fucking looked like in that movie. You know that movie we all saw with him and like Steve Carell or whatever, and he like shows up in the shirtless scene. But and like back then we thought he was shredded, but now when you look at it, you're like, fuck, he kind of looks like shit.
Seriously? It's like you're photoshopped.
Like, this is what he should have looked like, is what I think. So yeah, anyways, this guy looks, he's packed on a ridiculous amount of muscle. It's distributed well. And, as expectedly, anyone who looks insane is going to get the speculation, especially in a sport that is so unregulated. Why the fuck wouldn't you be on the Sazul, So I decided to go to his Instagram because, frankly, I'm not overly familiar with this guy. So I had to kind of dig back and see just, how dramatic it was. Like, obviously, that one, the Flow Grappling site did a very good job showing the before and afters kind of over that 2-year span, but I wanted to go all the way back to the beginning. And even from 2013, again, he's been slow and steady progress since, I guess he was a teenager here. But again, the genetics have always been shining. And you fast forward to where he would otherwise probably be more, plateaued in the, 2015 era. And then that jump above and beyond that, I think, is where things really got kind of saucy. And this is where he kind of is now. Like, here he is at 202 pounds in 2017. Like, I think Sauce was in the picture at this point. And he kind of, here's that picture before. Anyways, he is basically in 2017 peaked out and has the physique that everyone is like super suspicious of, and everyone's wondering what the fuck did this guy do. Everyone, like, some of the threads made about this guy are fucking ridiculous to read through. Like, I was doing some research, and let's see, Gordon must be on something, right? Eating clean and trending hard. He's shopping for dick pills at the same gas station as John Jones. Consuming Anavar give up. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like this is like the most over fucking used joke at this point. Like, trend hard, like test your limits. Fuck, Anavar give up. Fucking, that stupid fucking saying. I don't know, man. Like, it just to me it seems played out at this point. Let's see, 2:18 in the morning, scrolling through shirtless pics of Gordon Ryan. Check out some of the other names in the 88 kilogram division of this year's ADCC. He's far from the only one. Yeah, so there's a lot of dudes in this. Like, he's, one of the most famous. So obviously this is the one that gets focused on the most, but there's some real fucking sauceheads in this sport here. And all of the threads made about him are pretty much saying, it's a dead giveaway. Huge shoulders and traps and ultra lean. All signs point to anabolics. Traps are the dead giveaway. But his don't look that big compared to most guys on gear. Blah, 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 blah. So he trains 20 times a week, lifts, and has a girlfriend who is obviously on gear, and that is evidence that he doesn't use. I don't really know about some of this shit, but if I recall correctly, ADCCs don't test. If you ain't juicing, then you ain't trying to win. So yeah, like, obviously if you're in an untested league and you look like this, even after years of training hard and being competitive, and all of a sudden you pack on like 15 and 20 pounds of lean tissue, it's pretty suspect. So, like, all these threads, this guy makes the natty or not, threads like very often. I think he just like skates under the radar because he's not in the fitness industry, but people are actually interested in this, like, heavily speculate his use. Some people say, looks natty to me, and it's like, yeah, if you actually, when he's not this is like one of those things where it's like when he's lean, everyone says, oh, that's unreasonable. But then when he gains some fat because he like, you know, is trying to gain a bit of size or is kind of like loosening up on the diet a bit, all of a sudden it's naturally achievable. It's like, that's the fucking eye test doesn't always work like that. Far from juiced up. You guys are really clueless as to how much PED use there is in grappling and regional MMA. Gordon Ryan, BJJ athlete who's been accused of juicing multiple times. Here's his transformation. What do you think? He's 6'2" and went from about 160 pounds to 220 pounds in a year. I don't think he's 220 in the pic on the right. No, fuck no, obviously not, dude. But he got to that at some point. It's not naturally possible to put on that. Like, he's definitely sub 200 pounds in this picture here. There's no fucking way he's 220 here. I wouldn't be surprised if he went from like 160 to like fucking, I don't know, 185 here, 195. I guess if he's 6'2", it might be a bit closer. But it's, you know, like striking distance of 200 at the most. There's no way he's 220 there. He'd look way fucking bigger. At least in my, I guess 6'2", you know, you might be able to make the argument he's pushing it a bit higher, but I don't know. He's, you know, small joints, naturally skinny dude. I would not really meant to be a mass monster by any means. So, you know, if he was above 200 pounds in this picture, I would be, you know, fairly surprised, to be honest. Just pointing out, the first pic was taken with a cell phone, soft focus, no flexing, no lights. Yep, exactly. So this is the same thing I said about this when I first saw this transformation, but you know, there's a lot of arguments that you could imply, okay, maybe he is in fact, you know, natural because the before pictures aren't as heavily, you know, manipulated with lighting and shit. But it's like, you know, gains have been made, substantial gains to the point where his physique has taken on a look that I do not think for him personally is achievable naturally. But that's my own personal opinion. And as far as like the league goes, the stuff he competes in, I saw this article earlier this year, how BJJ athletes are able to cheat the IBJJF World's PED test. So going into this, the fact that this is such an unregulated sport, I kind of just assumed that what this article outlined, even before I read it, that it was just a matter of timing it. And if they have it, it is more like an intelligence test rather than actually trying to catch people. So it said in this, in February of 2020, the 2019 IBJJF World Champion and 2019 ADCC World Champion Phenom Duarte, I'm going to say that fucking wrong, whatever, failed a PED test after the 2019 IBBJJF Worlds. USADA announced the news and confirmed that he'd be receiving a 1-year suspension. So, you know, 1-year suspension for something that is, you could time it anyways too. And it's such a light fucking slap on the wrist for something that you could time so easily. So drug testing is very expensive and IBJJF is doing the right by testing its athletes. But is it really enough? Without unannounced random PED tests, there is zero chance of catching PED abusers. The biggest advantage of PEDs gives more ability to recover, train longer, harder, etc. Blah, 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 blah. Just stop taking a month prior to the competition so they can pee clean. And they'll be able to work on rolling and technique much more than a Natty competitor for most of the year. Even if they lose strength gains from coming off a cycle, they will not lose the advancements they made on technique. And you'll also not, you know, regress below baseline anyways if you've done enough fucking work beforehand, which is the main thing. So anyways, yeah, so there, oh, I guess there was a video about this too. So basically from the sounds of it, the drug tests are announced months in advance, and this means that athletes that are on gear can time their cycle so they don't get caught on a specific date. So basically you just have to plan the pharmacokinetic profile of whatever you're using and make a protocol that is designed to circumvent whatever it is. You know, if it has a T to E ratio in it as well, do you really think if they're barely even testing guys on a scheduled basis that they're going to do subsequent carbon isotope ratio testing if you're within a T to E ratio that is normal? You know, probably not. They're probably not going to spend the money doing any of this stuff. So you probably have a giant amount of leeway with bioidentical hormone replacement or synthetic agents, even if you just plan the timing well. And granted, the threshold of detecting some of these synthetic agents is a lot lower than it used to be, but again, it kind of depends where they are getting the samples tested at and kind of how you're administering the compounds and kind of just having an idea in your head of understanding what the clearance rates are. And if you know this, you can plan it pretty intelligently and kind of, like they said, get a significant amount of enhancement for the majority of the year and then have that level of enhancement drag forward into your competition. Even if it is not at peak performance, it's better than you would otherwise be naturally. And this is, so this is the same guy stripped of IBJJF title. It's not a coincidence that these guys are fucking sauced looking, dude. Like when you look at any sport, this sport has some of the most cranked looking athletes in it. Let's see, BJJ is one of the least regulated combat sports. Only one major organization regularly tests, and the IBJJF announced their tests ahead of time. And much to the surprise of the community, a guy still got flagged even when he knew when the fucking test was. So, you know, obviously this is just about timing, and it seems like Gordon Ryan is not like flat out saying shit, but he's open enough to imply what I think is obvious as is, even though he tries to very blatantly skirt around it still. So you can, you have to kind of take what he says with a grain of salt, and kind of like, the intelligence test comes into question again.
Everyone at the highest levels, for the most part, is on something. Like our team is pretty much like the only people who really, I think, don't use steroids to a certain degree.
So personally, I think his, what he says is you can kind of, it's pretty obvious when you see how his physique has progressed over the past, not the past couple of years, but the years before, when he kind of, was put on the spot and, talked about that stuff, and kind of, people were at the peak of their speculation. Like his physique hasn't really progressed past that, but it's like, you can't just linearly gain even when you're on steroids too. You have to hit a mark where above and beyond that, you need more drug exposure and or more food and or more something, which he may not be able to impose on his body. And he's kind of reached his cap for where he can get, even with exogenous hormone support, within his limits of whatever he needs to stay within for testing, for not hindering his performance in his sport, because you can't just be so muscle bound to the point where maybe you're gassing out, like whatever it is. I don't really know what the strategy goes into his exact, frankly, I don't follow it very closely, but I'm just going to assume for him, it's not going to benefit him significantly more to crank above and beyond whatever he is currently doing. So his physique has more or less maintained a similar look for the past few years, but that initial jump, to me, looked, it seemed pretty obvious, especially with the, why the fuck would you not leverage this to the maximum amount if they're basically giving you a green light to do whatever you're doing? Like if you're competing at a top tier level against world champions, why would you be the only guy who's natural among a sport which is rampant with hormone use? And the more recent Instagram stories, the main thing that sort of triggered me to go back to this video, because a bunch of people tagged me in this, and it was basically him talking about another guy on PEDs, and kind of talking about PEDs and Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And obviously I posted earlier in the video, we had the video of him talking about it. This was a couple of years ago when he was talking about this, but this Instagram story is literally yesterday. So he says, "I'm sick of everyone on the sauce white knighting." And he's kind of going at this Lachlan guy. So he says, "Lachlan, don't do steroids." So presumably this Lachlan guy claims he's Natty. And then here he is, post sauce apparently. And it's no one's fault that you're sauced up and still can't manage to win a single gold medal in any rule set. Maybe try getting better, or just take more juice like everyone else. So obviously shots fired here. These guys are obviously don't like each other very much, and it is, well acknowledged that this is a really fucking sauce to the gills sport, and presumably this Lachlan guy is a fake Natty, I guess. Let's see, and then the next story was a comment thread, and basically says, he's quoting him, "I don't even lift weights. Yeah, everyone knows you hit that big growth spurt when you turn 30, gain 20 pounds of solid muscle, your head doubles in size, and your jawline fills out to superhero level. What world this is?" I don't know. Maybe he was gonna end that sentence somewhere. But anyways, Lachlan, let's see. LOL, he will be extra mad when he hears I don't even lift weights. So basically, he gains a shit ton of size, claims he doesn't lift weights. Maybe it's like that Adama Traore video I did, where he just gained a stupid amount of muscle and then claimed he didn't lift, when in reality, a bunch of the exercises and shit he was doing was very, very resistance training involved, and he just didn't understand. Maybe that's sort of what's going on here. But either way, sauce allegations flying all over the place here. Then going on to the next story. Like, if you look at those two comparison pictures and think to yourself, yeah, a guy could attain that transformation naturally in his 30s while never lifting weights, you're a fucking moron. So yeah, this is like kind of the biggest red flag I always look to when doing these kind of, videos, when people are asking, how do you know if this guy's natty? How do you know if he's not? You just look at him historically. If this guy has been training with a high level of adherence and a high level of just like quality, his diet's been on point, he's been training for years, you start to progress very quickly. You get the newbie gains. As the years progress, your gains are going to diminish very, very quickly and very severely. Like after the first year, you've gained the majority of your muscle, and then the next year it's, maybe half of that. The year after, maybe half of that if you're lucky. By like year 4 as a natural, if you've done everything right and your training isn't like abysmal and you're sleeping properly, you're eating properly, the likelihood that you're going to linearly gain like more than a handful of pounds of muscle after like year 3 or 4, it's like a far cry of occurring, especially if that's even a fucking word, it's a long shot of occurring. It's very unlikely to happen, especially if you're in your 30s and you have never, you've been plateaued for years and all of a sudden things just jump up to the next level. Like, no, you didn't do a new training program. You didn't like start a new fucking, supplement thing. You didn't do some crazy fucking techniques in the gym or some shit. Like, no, you're introducing something exogenously that is enhancing your fucking hormonal profile or acts via the same mechanism as hormones. You're probably on gear. This is like the likely outcome. So yeah, like obviously what he's saying here makes sense for this guy in his 30s, and I'm pretty sure if what he's saying is correct in terms of how his body progression went and the guy was just plateaued and then just fucking jumped up, it's pretty fucking obvious. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. Furthermore, every tournament besides IBJJF and only in the last few years allows PEDs. It's not cheating in almost any tournament, LMAO. And if it is, Lachlan should give back his bronze, not gold, ADCC. That's a shot. ADCC medal, along with all the money he's made in DVDs, seminars, and silence because of that medal. Oh, he doesn't want to do that? You don't say. So yeah, like he's even acknowledging like they all allow PEDs, so you basically be fucking stupid to not. So why would you be the only guy who's not using it? Like he's pretty much like laying out the argument for us, to be honest. Let's see, and this is here's the transformation. Yeah, you're in your 30s, never lift weights, but managed to get bigger, more cuts, a bigger head, and broader jawline while doing cardio all day. Give me a break, LMAO. It's literally impossible. Yeah, so especially in a sport like BJJ or MMA or whatever it is, if you suddenly pack on a ridiculous amount of muscle that is like actually noticeable to someone, where it's like even the average guy would say like, what the fuck did you do? It's pretty obvious you're doing something. You can't just, step things up to the next level and gain 10 pounds of muscle when you are literally doing the most catabolic athletic activity possible and doing excessive amounts of cardio and not training like a bodybuilder. If you're not training for hypertrophy, you're doing catabolic fucking, I don't know, a bunch of fucking shit that is not conducive to holding mass. And then you still somehow manage to pack on more muscle than what you otherwise were plateaued at previously for years. No, like it doesn't take a rocket scientist, like I said. So yeah, this is like a spot on statement here. Let's see, going to the last story. My opinion, if you've competed with PEDs, you cheated and should relinquish any accomplishments. I don't white knight and call out people for being on juice while also on juice. LMAO, the match was competitive. Okay, let's see. Gordon loves jiu-jitsu. Attacking and accusing Lachlan Giles for using PEDs is comedy. Gordon looks like he fucked a syringe filled with tren. And I only say tren because of his anger on social media. That being said, I'd love to see grappling regulated better, and I really hope this culminates in a sub-only, no time limit match between Giles, I don't know how to say it, and Ryan. Even though Gordon strangled him at ADCC, the match was competitive. So, and he's laughing at the match was competitive. So obviously he didn't think so. So anyways, going back to what Gordon Ryan says himself about it, like it sounds like, in the stories, he's laying out a pretty fucking clear argument for why would no one use it? You'd be the only fucking guy who's not taking advantage of this lack of testing. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Even when he's interviewed about it, like his answer is pretty transparent in my opinion.
Everyone at the highest levels, for the most part, is on something. Like our team is pretty much like the only people who really, I think don't use steroids to a certain degree.
So anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you think Gordon Ryan is on the size wall, or do you think he was at least, and to make that body transformation? And if so, like, what do you think he's taken? What do you think about Brazilian jiu-jitsu and the lack of drug testing? Do you think they should have drug testing in the sport? Or do you think it matters? Do you think it's just going to be like everything else, where it's just people who are better connected, have better resources, have better access to intelligent people are going to be the ones who skirt around it and then get the performance enhancing advantage? Or should there just be no rules and everyone can use it freely, and then there's nobody getting an unfair edge really, because everyone can just do whatever the fuck they need to anyways without having to worry about it? So I don't know, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And you know, all the engagement helps the algorithm, so it's much appreciated when you guys do that. Please follow me on Instagram at @moreplates_more_dates, Facebook, Snapchat, BJJ, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to get my deep dives into bodybuilding pharmacology and performance enhancing drug use, you can check out my newsletter. It's the first link in the description below, and you're not going to get sent those updates if you don't sign up for that. So I highly recommend you do. A lot of incentive to do so. And anything else I'm associated with, if you want to support the channel, you can check out all of the companies I own or I'm associated with in the video description below. My TRT clinic, as well as Gorilla Mind, Nootropic, Gorilla Mode, pre-workout formulas, and anything else down there, all supports me and is much appreciated. So thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.